Thank you, thank you. I did want to pick up on a couple of points from previous presentations before I begin. Brian McMahon, are you in the room? He mentioned, good, because he mentioned Braveheart. Didn't end well for Braveheart, just saying. And Sir Edmund Hillary, he was actually a Kiwi, not a Brit, even though he was a Sir. I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so do we have my presentation up here somewhere?
Yeah, one question.
There we go. All right, so this was actually a riff on Seth Godin who said in 2008 that content marketing is the only marketing left. He's somewhat prescient, that man. We've changed it a bit. We call it content advertising. I don't have time to explain the semantics today, but call me. We can have a discussion. Story Worldwide, we talk a lot to our clients about establishing their authority to publish. You know, what is if you're going to create content with an audience, with your tribe, how do you establish your authority? Our authority to publish, or for me being up here, we were founded in 1999 as a content unit of IPG. After 6 years, we managed to get the hell out and create our own company called Story. We founded the Custom Content Council in 1997. I encouraged Joe Polizzi to start the Content Marketing Institute. He said, would you pay some money to be a charter member? I said, okay, if you do it. So he did. And really the notion is that we create and distribute branded content across all channels, all media. We're about 100 people in New York and in Seattle. And our guiding principle, and this is a guiding principle for the future of advertising, really, which is the only way to reach audiences is to create content that is going to engage them. And to engage them, it has to be entertaining and or informative. Interruption doesn't work anymore. We know this. It's much less effective than it was. So you have to, in order to succeed with an audience and to build marketing, you really have to be the channel, not interrupt the channel. So what does content advertising really mean? For us, it means that brands have to become publishers, literally. So let me give you an example. And there are a number of small and larger examples, but anybody here watch the Vikings on the History Channel? Really? All of you, get a life. It's fantastic. It's brilliant. It's really. I studied linguistics, and there's, they've tried to recreate, Anglo-Saxon in the year 850 and Old Norse, and it's really brilliant. But more than that, it's got tons of sex and tons of violence. So it's got something for everybody. It certainly hits all of my buttons. So the thing that really frustrates me is that, and this is an OTT delivery, it's not through I get it through Hulu, I think, and ultimately, it's still interrupting me. I still have a countdown. No, we've got a 15-second ad. Okay, it's not 30 seconds, it's 15 seconds. Bullshit. It's rubbish. I'm having a really good experience learning Anglo-Saxon, and you interrupt me with a stupid message I don't want, whether it's Toyota or anybody else. So that's just the old model that's being ported to a new medium. So what's the alternative? What do we mean by brands becoming publishers? Well, think about what's a brand that would have the authority to publish Vikings? There's loads, but visit Scandinavia, for example. I'd be much more likely to go to Scandinavia if they brought me Vikings than if they didn't, or Carlsberg, Carlsberg beer. So those are examples of just how brands can actually be the content rather than interrupting the content. And ultimately, you've got to earn the audience and not buy it. Yeah, buying it. I think that's been a theme today. Buying an audience is fleeting. You've got to continue to give them something to come back for. And we're not the only ones saying this. From a startup mattress company that is producing journalism, not marketing, we would argue that actually that branded journalism is marketing, and it's the only marketing left. But their broad goal is to own the conversation around sleep And of course, a mattress company has absolute authority to publish content around sleep. That's a perfect match of their authority and the content they produce. Let's go to some better-known companies. So Keith Weed, who's the CMO, global CMO for Unilever, one of the largest marketing organizations on the planet. And this was him speaking a couple of months ago at a conference in London. He speaks very quietly. So this is Ben and Jerry's.
Source agencies to be an integral part of our brand story, our brand communication storytelling. We see ourselves as publishers, not marketeers, and we see our agencies more as journalists as part of the editorial team than as an external party that is working for
That's really important. This is an iconic ice cream brand that are basically saying exactly the same thing as the mattress company, which is that we're journalists now, or rather, we're publishers. Our agencies are journalists, and this is the only way we're going to succeed as an ice cream brand going forward, is to create content that people want. And another thing that Keith Weed said a couple of months ago after CES was, you don't need. Actually, he said, back in the day, it was a really simple world. I had one agency. They did everything for me. Now it's a specialist world, and I need 10 agencies to do everything, from social to PR to digital to mobile to traditional TV to blah, blah, blah. Again, we call bullshit on that. You don't need a dozen agencies. You need, on your roster, you need to do one thing that truly matters, and that is to find and tell your unique story. If you do that, you can be the agency of everything. It's the only thing that matters, is once you have that core narrative that unifies everything, and every message, every piece of content that you create across all channels, you can be the agency of everything. And that's what we claim to be, by the way, which is somewhat bold, but we'll see. And this is why brands that tell the best stories win. It's that simple. If you create your own tribe, as we were talking about before, it's really about not renting an audience. It's about owning an audience. So and then helping that audience, helping that tribe to share your story. That way you're going to win. That way you're going to replace traditional advertising, and the agencies in the room that do that are going to replace those big, large agencies that are out there that are going to fail. They can't do this. They're nimble. They don't understand it. Well, they know how to create interruptive messages. That's it. It's time. Let's get rid of them. And the brands that tell the best stories are ones that find a narrative that's unique to them. That it's their story, and it could be an ice cream brand, and they have 100 different competitors out there. But there's a relatively well proven process to find the core narrative that's unique to you, that's authentic, that's differentiating. Nobody else can lay claim to it. And then once you have that, then you build all of your communications around that core narrative, around that story. This is simply the future of advertising. It's the future of marketing. Unless you really understand what your story is, you're not going to succeed. And because there's a billion people out there that can hijack your brand, claim bullshit if you're claiming something that isn't true, that isn't yours, that isn't sustainable. And this is the future. So how do you do it? How do you actually get to the core story? A lot of people struggle with this. We call it a story platform. You can call it what you like. It's really based on the principles of journalism. Myself and my partner, who was a Pulitzer Prize finalist, come from a background in publishing, and every magazine, every newspaper, every blog, every channel that's out there, every media outlet has an editorial platform. It's the filter through which you make meaning of events, and you create meaning out of, and it's a lens through which you build a trusted voice with your tribe. It's not a tagline. It's not external facing, it's not consumer facing, it's something that anchors, again, every single thing that you create through every single channel. It's the core narrative you want to deliver. So let's see this in action. Let me finish up by giving you an example of what we mean and how you can be the agency of everything. So BeechNut, they're transforming the number two, actually the number 3 in the market. Number 1 is Gerber, number 2 is home-cooked baby food. So moms are cooking, they want the best for the babies, and the best thing to do is to cook it yourself. It's the only way you can trust the ingredients. BeechNut came up with a revolutionary, disruptive product that was actually natural, no preservatives, no GMOs. It actually tasted like food. And this whole category is full of 20-year-old kids punking themselves, trying not to puke with the baby food challenge. That's how bad this category is, and they've come up with something that actually tastes just like food. So they needed to find their core narrative first of all, and then weave that narrative through every single channel. So I'm just going to show you some examples of how they did that, and show you how this works, how you can actually call this. So the story platform that they came up with, or actually we came up with them for them, was the Wildly Honest Food for Life, and there's a tremendous amount of meaning that goes into that. We don't have time for that. And then once we have that platform, it's at the center of this ecosystem. We create the brand book. We create the story and remind them of how they got to this. That tells that story in richer detail, and then we're driving conversations through social media. This is all done through one agency with one core narrative. This is it. There's no reason why everybody in the room, whether you're a brand, whether you're an agency, whether you're a technology company, and everybody needs to do it for themselves, and then you can do it for others. And there were storytelling pillars that we realized that they could. That they had authority, again, to talk about. So honest transparency. They're clear jars. You can see what's in the product, and they're transparent about the process, transparent about how they get there. They have a passion for food, and most importantly, it's closest to homemade. They realized they couldn't take on homemade food. That's a war they're never ever going to win. So how do you? And so they position themselves as, well, look, we're going to show you how we make our food. It's very similar to the way you make it at home, and sometimes you don't have the time or the energy to do it yourself. If you don't, we're the second best thing. That's honest. That's a great story platform. That's kickable. It's proddable. It's true. And so then, how do you tell that story? So we created a series of web stories around it. TV spot.
Homemade is our inspiration. Just real, whole fruits and vegetables go into our jars, and nothing else. This is not baby food. This is real food for babies. See how homemade it inspires us at beechnut.com.
So you can see how that narrative plays through even a TV spot. And most baby food TV spots, by the way, are focused on the baby, not on the food. They can't show the food because it's horrible. And then in the let's not create matching luggage world, which a lot of brands do. Hey, come to our website and you can see our TV spot. Why on earth would you want to do that? Surely you want to see some content that's relevant to the channel in which you're watching it. So this was something that we created for social channels.
And then we blend them before cooking. love it just the way it is, and you want to do more than what's necessary. If you've ever left a cut apple in a town, you know air can do bad things to good food.
And it worked. Just the tremendous levels of engagement and active conversations that we were able to generate as a result of it. And again, they have total authority to publish content in this realm. So finishing up, in this content advertising world, the most effective strategy, the most effective points to bear in mind, dismiss the intermediaries. You don't need somebody else's tribe. You don't need to interrupt somebody else's tribe's experience with a message that they don't want to hear. So gather your own tribe together, and then don't interrupt them with content that they don't want again. Engage them with valuable content that intersects not just the brand's needs, but their needs too. Too much of content marketing out there right now is about pushing messages that they don't want and that they don't care about. So really understand the audience before you start to create a piece of content. Make sure you meld it with the brand's message, and then you'll get yourself a tribe. Encourage them to share it. We're in 2015. It's very easy. Just get them to do it. They'll do the job for you. Suddenly your paid media spend goes through the floor, and your share of conversation goes through the roof. And then finally, once you start doing this, never ever stop. You can't build a tribe, you can't build an audience, build a voice, build an expectation, and then stop doing it. You're better off not starting. It's 3:01. I'm done. Thank you.